Hi guys, it's your FX mentor and coach Bliss Billion Dollar. Yeah, you like the sound of that. Yeah. So guys, before we get started with this lesson, I would love to tell you a story. Now, this story kind of relates with what we're about to learn, and it will help you know what we're really talking about. So there was this day, I had gone out. I was with a friend of mine. It was actually in the rain season. Yeah, I can remember very well. It was actually in the rain season. Yeah, then I came back. I had gone out. Then at night, that was at night. Then I came back with a friend of mine. Then I entered the house. I found like the TV was stolen, some pots like from my kitchen, and a number of things. Then I realized a thief had actually broken into the house. I checked the doors intact. So I figured maybe the thief had used another way to get into the house. So a friend of mine, my friend and I started checking, and we actually realized the thief had actually gotten into the house through the window. And he left the house through the same window. So after we followed the same window and we were checking, we were able to track the footsteps. To be honest, my friend also, even started suspecting, some of the neighbors to say, "Hey, bro, this foot is so big. I think it is for that, he was suspecting some people, eh? Yeah, and we started following the footsteps to know where it was going, where the person was going, the thief. And then we reached the tarred road. Yeah, and the footsteps disappeared. So from there, we were able to say, okay, the person had actually maybe crossed the road. We checked on the other side, there were no footsteps. So we knew the person had actually gotten into the car and left, because they actually got a number of things. After that, we were able to establish, okay, where did the person go? Okay, the guy, we checked the tires, and we're like, okay, they went this side. Yeah, because their car was actually leaking, and we're able to tell, the oil, where it had gone. Yeah, so we're able to tell they actually went to the north, right? Yeah, and we're like, okay, where can they be? Maybe in the north. We're like, okay, I'll go and check these out, these places and all that. Yeah. I'm a very terrible storyteller, guys. But anyway, I hope that story, at least stuck into your mind. It didn't happen, by the way. Sorry, it did happen, God forbid, and it's not gonna happen. Yeah, but anyway, so guys, the topic that I want to introduce to you today is called price action. So now you would see most of these mentors of yours, maybe somebody that you've maybe met in the past. They're flexing, I'm a price action trader, blah 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 blah. Now this is your time to flex. Once you learn the whole price action, you'll be going to them and you'll be flexing. Now the good part is that those mentors, they're price action traders. Now guess what? You are learning price action in the beginners section. Now you can only imagine what is in the intermediates. So by the time you'll be done with the intermediate section, you'll be way better than that person who claims they trade only on price action. This is why I'm Bliss Billion Dollar, and this is why I'm your coach. This is why Forex changed my life. It changed my life because I got the extraordinary knowledge. I went beyond. Price action is everywhere. And if something is everywhere, and when you look at the statistics that are online, only about 5 to 9 to 10% of the people that trade are profitable. So meaning, if the information is really available and people are not making it, then there should be something wrong. So price action alone is not enough. This is why after you learn price action, you'll be able to trade like that person that flexes to say, I trade based on price action, but then I'll put an antidote. I hope you know what an antidote is, eh? Yeah, I hope you know what an antidote is. Yeah, I'll put an antidote which will allow you to look at price in a very different way. So ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce you to price action. So you might want to ask, yeah, of course, It's your FX mentor, Bliss Billion Dollar, like I earlier introduced. So what is price action? Price action, in simple terms, is just the kind of trading that is based on previous data, the present data, and based on these two, we predict the future. Now, this is where the story of the thief that I told, comes into play. Price action says it is a kind of trading that looks at the previous data. It looks at the present data, and based on the previous and the present data, you are able to predict the future, right? So remember when I was with my friend looking at how the thief actually broke into the house. We're looking at the previous data, right? And us following through those footsteps. That was us now realizing where the thief had gone, right? That was like present, we're doing it, ne? Yeah, I know it was all in the past, but I want you to get the concept. I'm not a storyteller and all that, but I want you to get the logic, ne? And based on those two, we were able to establish the thief broke into the house through the window. He left the house through the window, and he started going to the road. After we reached by a roadside, we were able to determine to say he had gone to the north. Ladies and gentlemen, that is how you should be looking at price action. So with price action, you'll be able to look at how price has been moving all along. Then you'll be able to look at how price is currently behaving. And with those two things combined together, you'll be able to predict where the market will go next. Guys, this is where your future of being profitable starts. We are not wizards. Others will be like, hey, Bliss, my man, you are bad news. How do you know the market is going to do this? How do you know the market is going to spike? How do you know? Hey, we're not wizards, guys. It's just the data, guys, data. It's just the data, right? Okay, yeah. Enough of the jokes. Yeah, so let's continue, guys. Yeah, so we're not wizards, but we base our assumptions, our predictions on what is already on the table. We can't trade what is not on the table. We only trade based on what is on the table. So it's more like, this does that, and from there you're able to say it will be able to do this. Now, why do we use price action in that regard? So price action says, human behavior is repeated. I don't know if that's the correct way of putting it. Yeah. So if you discover that, I'm Bliss Billion Dollar, and there's a way on how I move. There are those certain moves that I make. For instance, let's put you in a position where you are a mother or you are a father, right? To a kid. Say amen to that, eh? Yeah, so you are a mother or a dad, a papa, and all that. Yeah, then you have this kid. This kid only has maybe 3 routes. One, first of all, is the home. Secondly, is school. After school, shopping mall, right? Just 3 movements. So, let's say you come back from work and you come to your place, you find your kid is not there. And you look at the time, maybe it's around 12 afternoon, and your kid goes to school in the morning. So if the kid is not home, the kid only has 3 movements. If the kid is not at school, then he or she is at home. If he or she is not at home, then he is at the mall. So, knowing for the fact that that kid moves like that, what would be your assumption? Or rather, where would you start first by looking for? Where would you start from if you are to start looking for your kid? Of course, you're right. You would start from the mall. This is how price action traders look at price, right? So, as traders trade, as people trade, as price moves, people have got this repeated behavior that we always do. And based on that repeated behavior, we're able to see certain patterns, certain, trends repeating themselves. And based on that, we're able to make decisions, right? This is what I'm going to teach you. I'm going to ensure that your eyes are able to see these things play out in the market. Well, without wasting much of the time, let's hit the road. Yeah. So price action is also the art, or rather the skill of trading based on patterns. So in price action, there are also patterns. So as humans, as traders, as we trade and all that, they leave certain footprints in the market. Remember the story of the thief, the footprints and all that. Yeah. So now those footprints of the thief in the story is what we're going to call the patterns in price action, right? So based on those patterns, we're able to tell the next movement. So in price action, these footprints are what we call the patterns. These patterns show how traders move the market and to what extent. So this is past data. Then we also look at how these traders are behaving right now. So once we say, okay, or once we see traders are behaving like this, then we can make a conclusion to say, here, they're likely to do this, they're likely to do this. Remember the story of that kid of yours, ne? And he or she having, a limited number of, places to go to? Yeah. But the question is, how do you know all this data just based on the charts? So we use things like candlesticks, support and resistance, Fibonacci, the shapes, patterns, etc. to make our decisions. Now we'll talk about these things later on. So why should we use price action? First of all, we need to understand why price action works sometimes. So it represents human behavior. So when people trade, their behaviors create specific patterns on the charts. So price action is about understanding the psychology of the market using those patterns. This is why you see price hitting a resistance or a support and bounce back to go into the opposite direction. This is all because of human behaviors. Like I said, human behavior is somehow repeated. Yeah, I don't know. It repeats itself, right? And this is why we're taking certain trades to say, okay, this and this has happened, and we expect the market to go like this, because humans are the ones that trade, and their behavior kind of repeats itself. So price action also gives you the structure of the market. We're talking about the door theory and all that. That is all price action, the higher highs, lower lows, and all that. Yeah. So we're not wizards. We can't predict 100% on where the market will go. Out with price action. You can, with price action, you can to an extent predict where the market will go. So knowing the structure of the market is very important. I'll talk about structure later on. For now, let's just, follow through. Yeah. So if you know the structure, you have a higher probability of reducing uncertainty of missing where price would go next. So why price action still? Price action also helps you to reduce the noise in the market. So what is noise, if you may ask? Noise is simply, sometimes when you trade on indicators and all that, blah, 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 all those things are based on mathematical equations and those things create what we call noise. They might not always be precise. So with price action, it filters out that noise, because you are able to read price precisely, following the footsteps of that thief. But don't get me wrong, I'm not saying price action is not immune to false signals. What I'm trying to say is that you have a way better chance of being right than using those thinking indicators. Besides, these indicators can't think on their own. They simply use raw data and they just some weird mathematical equations, like I said. Yeah. So what is noise? Noise is simply the price data that distorts the picture of the trend of the market. This may be due to small corrections and volatility. So how do you minimize noise? Mostly, the way I trade is that to minimize noise, I use the higher time frames, like the H1, H4, M15, M30. For entries. Let me set an example and try to go on a chart, right? Let's look at this illustration. So this is a chart on, I think this is a 5 minute. You've seen how the market behaved here. You see how it was just, some sort of, up and down, like it was ranging, market without direction. But let's look at this. But when you see here, are you seeing any ranging here? This box here. There is no ranging. This is the high time frame. This is the H4. So with price action, we're able to use different time frames interchangeably. And once we learn that skill, we're able to filter out that noise and just be able to do what the right thing. Yeah, so high time frames will reduce the noise in the market. Yeah, so we're able to see how those two different, things are different. So mass psychology and price action. So now let's progress and talk about mass psychology and how it blends with price action. So mass psychology is simply a collective of human behavior. So price action correlates so well with mass psychology. So how? So you know how we as human beings behave and respond to certain, circumstances in different ways or in certain ways. So this also happens in trading. The way the traders react when certain patterns are formed, like the double top, triple top, all those things, head and shoulders, we're going to learn about those things. You know how you respond in that regard? So when price makes a certain thing, you are able to respond in a certain way and make a decision based on what kind of pattern that is formed. For example, you'd spot a major resistance level, and once price hits it, most of the people will be going to sell because we understand at the resistance, price has to change direction. Not always, there are times when it will be broken, and we're going to learn about all that. So you can read all that. So price action is about understanding my psychology of the market, using those patterns and making profits. So guys, that was just an introduction to what we call price action. Now you have an understanding of what price action is based on and why we use it sometimes. And I can't wait for us to go deeper so that you go and flex to that person that was flexing on you to say they trade based on price action. Well, that was it, guys. I remain your best and favorite FX mentor, Bliss $1 billion.